Hey, Josh, what's your favorite planet? Mine's the
sun.
sun. It's like the king of all planets.
I could stare at it for hours.
Hey, Josh, if you were a hot dog and you were starving to death, would you eat yourself? I
know
know I
I
would. I'd smother myself in brown mustard and relish. I'd be so delicious.
Join us next week when we're going to get Albert Einstein on the show. What? I've just been informed that he's been dead for 50 years. We'll try to get him anyway.
Cubs win. Cubs win. Check. 1, 2. Check. Make sure my microphone's working correctly.
I know. I'm literally trying to touch as least as possible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Like, my microphone is coming across softer now for some reason.
Just talk louder.
Nothing makes sense. Yeah. Josh, why are you yelling at me the whole episode?
We get done.
It's the only way I can get my microphone to work like yours.
We get done with the episode. I take my headphones off. I'm just pouring blood out of there. Because it's so weird. Like, I know I've mentioned this before, but like I can't not record with headphones on. Like with my mixer and stuff, like on my computer,
right?
I have to have mic mirroring on the headphones.
That's wild to me. I don't like hearing myself.
I don't either, but I can't not record or talk into a microphone.
Well, I think part of it for me though is that because I speak on every Sunday with a microphone that doesn't have monitoring on it.
So you're used to it.
Like, I can't hear myself up there.
Yeah.
So I'm used to just rattling off without any kind of assistance in that sense. Well, to fire us off this morning, I've got a would you rather question for you.
Let's do it.
We love those. So this was another one that AI helped me with. So it was in my list of funny ones that it came up with. I really like this one, but it's also really strange to a degree.
Okay.
Would you rather grow a random new toe every year or shed your skin like a snake once a month?
Ugh. Ugh. I don't like either of those.
Yeah, I know. That's why this is a good one.
So if you were 80, you would have 90 toes?
Sure.
Ugh.
And it doesn't specify that they grow on your feet.
I think I'm taking the skin. I think I'm taking the skin.
Shedding the skin once a month?
Although I would be amazing at scaling up mountains and stuff though. All that, if they were on your feet, all that grip that you would have going up there.
If you had 90 toes on your feet,
you'd be able to grip anything with your feet.
But let's say hypothetically, right? So I'm basing this off of my feet. So I have 5 toes across the front of my foot.
You have 5?
Right, on one foot. So hypothetically, with the length of my foot, I could fit 10 down each side and another 5 on the back. So that puts me to 30 toes per foot, which means I'm at 60 toes, both feet in, right?
So that's the next 50 years.
Okay. See, which at my age now, I'm long gone by then, which is great. So I could just surround my feet with toes and be like you said, I could climb anything because you got just crazy grip. Now, if you started this at the beginning of your life, though, eventually those toes are going to have to either grow over top of each other.
What if they grew
so
down?
You're stacking toes?
What if you're right down on the sole of your feet?
How painful would that get? You're just walking on your toes?
You would always be walking on your tiptoes.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Think of Thing from the Addams Family. Just
you could also never ever you couldn't play soccer in a sense because you'd be you think about the fact that every time you run into something with your foot, you're stubbing a toe. Right, because there's no way to avoid it.
Well, it's like one of those things where if you're barefoot, you could just scuttle across the. Yeah.
What if when you were a 1-year-old, you only had one toe, so you were adding one every year? You know what I'm saying?
See, okay, as bad as this sounds, that would be less bad.
Right,
I would take that
in the long run.
Yeah, in the long run. But your balance would be terrible until you got to 10 years old.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to walk until you were
well,
10.
it's like Darwin thought.
Well, you'd be able to walk by the time you were 6, maybe. But it would be difficult.
What if they only grew on 1 foot at a time?
That would be rough. That'd be real rough. You're nubbing it up on one side.
Yeah.
The other side's got full 5 toes when you're 5 years old.
Well, because there was Darwin thought that there was no use for your big toe.
Right.
And so it would just eventually de-evolve. And it's no, that's where 90% of your balance comes from, is from your big toe.
Yeah.
That's I just learned what turf toe was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never knew what turf toe was because it's. I think it was the whatever the Kelsey Brothers podcast is. They were explaining it that like turf toe is that ligament that is on your big toe that stretches down to the bottom of your big toe, and that either gets strained or torn. It's such a whimsical injury name for a pretty severe injury.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Turf toe.
I had turf toe when I was playing soccer in high school. So yeah, that's not a fun experience.
Fortunately, that's one thing I never got was turf toe. Like I've had like some 3rd degree sprains on my ankle, which I wish I would have just broke it at that point.
Yeah, I sprained my ankle so bad when I was in college that the doctor, when he looked at the MRI and stuff afterwards, he's like, "Well, it's not broken, but you would have been better off if it was." And
you would have healed faster.
Yeah, and he goes, yeah. He's like, with as bad as this sprain is, you would have healed up like way faster if you'd actually like just broken it. And I'm like, oh, great, cool. I'll keep that in mind next time. Yeah. So, anyways, So you're picking? Do you think snakeskin is?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking snakeskin.
Shed your skin once a month.
Yeah, why not?
Can you imagine like how dope it would be if you could get a complete skin, like a snake's comes off? Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, gosh, I would get full blown weird. It's like, and this is my closet of my previous skins.
Make your own Edgar suits.
Oh gosh!
But could you imagine though the absolute horror the first time that happened?
Oh yeah, like can you imagine like your skin just starts like peeling off? Have you seen that? So
this is okay. I was about to say like this is like a PSA, like don't do drugs. But like if you were tripping and that happened,
that'd be the worst case scenario. You'd be losing your mind.
Just like peeling your skin off. And
I was watching a video. It was on Daily Dose of Internet. So Sky loves to watch his videos. Because the guy just takes like all the best parts of the internet over the past week and puts them together in one compilation for you. So he actually is like, they're really good, like fun to watch. But he showed one where somebody took their pet lizard that it was time for its skin to come off. He poked a little hole down by its like tail on the top of its back and put an air compressor thing underneath there. Or no, it was a straw. They use like straws on them. And they would stick them under their skin and blow into it and balloon up all the skin around it so it kind of detached itself, and then they would peel it back off of the lizard. It was actually like really wild to watch. I was like, that's actually kind of cool.
Well, it's like one of those
things. I showed multiple people doing it.
I was going to say, have you seen like where they'll actually like pick when it gets in like the nose and like the different places like around their eyes where it's harder for them to shed, and they'll like pick it off and it comes off and it's like a perfect like little nose cavity and stuff like that. Like that's pretty cool.
Crazy. All right, we're ready to fire this thing off.
Let's do this.
Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Josh.
Recognize me? No? Well, I'm Josh. I got suspended from school because of Josh.
You're going to be there with me in every way imaginable, Josh.
Josh is truly in a trance, yes.
I went to high school with Josh, and I can tell you right now, he's a terrific kisser.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Josh, these are people's jobs we're talking about, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Hi. Josh walking in the door wasn't even close.
Josh, you are a muffin-snuggling pirate puncher.
Josh is a good guy. We can talk to him.
Please welcome Joshua. Josh.
Well, it's the first of the month.
It's the first of the month.
You know what that means. It is time for our Cryptid of the Month.
Cryptid of the Month
is up this time.
With binge listening to Haunted Cosmos, because they were on an episode of Ninjas Are Butterflies.
Yeah. We both went down that rabbit hole. Like we heard them on there talk about a couple things and we're like, well, that's going to be my new one.
Which, honestly, if you listen to this podcast and enjoy the cryptids and things like that, like you would enjoy Haunted Cosmos. It's a very thought-provoking show where it actually takes biblical principles, things from the Bible, and applies them to cryptids and...
Yeah, like pretty much all the weird stuff that we talk about and that a lot of podcasts talk about that everybody's curious about. Those guys take all of it and kind of tie it back in to help us to see that so many of these things that we deal with are like either demonic forces or the way that Satan and the evil ones are trying to pull things over our eyes in a sense to hide the truth of other things. So yeah, like the Haunted Cosmos do a great job of taking a lot of the weird things that we deal with in life and a lot of the weird things that we talk about even on this podcast, and breaking it down to a spiritual level for us.
So this is one of their earlier episodes that they recorded, and it's a subject that we talked about a little bit in the early episodes when we were talking about the Frogman and Mothman. I'm going to start, we're going to go all the way back to the 1700s.
Okay.
So we're going back a little ways.
Yeah.
In late autumn of 1777, the Ohio River...
1 year after.
Yeah.
1776, baby. Freedom.
Woo-hoo.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
The Ohio River Valley was a land of conflict. Tensions between the settlers and the Shawnee people had reached a breaking point. And here it was, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, that Chief Cornstalk, a respected leader, a warrior, and a strategist, met his tragic fate. Cornstalk was captured under a white flag of truce, held prisoner in Fort Randolph. And while he was being, he surrendered, he didn't want anything to do with the conflict between the Shawnees and the settlers. He was trying to broker peace. There was an accord that happened with the native tribes, and he didn't want them going to war. He didn't want the settlers going to war. He wanted to broker some sort of peace.
He was trying to honor that accord, and as I recall, from listening to that, he was kind of outside of the conflict, right? And his whole goal was let's mitigate things as best we can so that we don't go into a full-scale war against the now Americans.
Right. When he was at Fort Randolph, a skirmish broke off and a settler was killed. As retribution for that, 2 of the soldiers, against orders to not harm him, stormed his cell in a rage. They stabbed, shot, and left him to die.
Yep. So they killed Chief Corncob.
Chief Cornflakes. And it is said that with his last breath, Chief Cornstalk laid a curse on that land. That land was Point Pleasant, and the surrounding hills and valleys that would know centuries of sorrow, natural disasters, and strange happenings beyond comprehension. Some of the stories are dismissed as folklore, but others say the curse still lingers. And on a quiet September night, in 1952, just 60 miles from where Cornstalk fell, the little town of Flatwoods would come face to face with something that felt like a nightmare come alive.
So we've got Chief Cornstalk, who has been murdered by 2 soldiers as retribution for the killing of a settler, right? Somebody that was in that area that was a U.S. citizen, if you will. They murder this guy, but on his dying breath, he curses the whole area. Basically, he's just all right, you guys want to mess around, then I'm going to place a curse on this. Interesting.
This was the curse that he laid on the land. I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refused to join your enemies. I came to the fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its people be paralyzed by the stain of our blood.
Cornstalk's really throwing the gauntlet down in that sense.
So for those of you who don't remember 8th grade history when you learned about the Revolutionary War, the British were trying to incite the indigenous people against the colonists. So that's where a lot of that comes from, where he said, hey, we're not going to war against them. We're only here to protect our land. And it's one of those things. It's well, we'll give you the land, and it's well, this is already our land to begin with. I don't know how you're going to give something that's already ours,
right?
But it's one of those things where that's where that part of that curse comes from, is because they were trying to incite them. So he came there. He didn't want anything to do with the British. He came there to make peace and everything like that.
Yeah. And this was stuff, when we talk about the British trying to use the Native Americans, that stuff that stems back to the French and Indian War and beyond. From the very beginning, whenever there were people who were trying to turn against Great Britain in any way, they were always trying to manipulate the Native American people into fighting on their side and stuff. So it's kind of it's actually humorous, because the empire that was trying to put its thumb onto all the people groups of the world at that point in time,
Right.
is telling this other group, hey, you should join sides with us because this other group of people wants to take your land from you. But in reality,
we already took the land.
yeah, they were the ones who came in and took the land and stuff. It's really humorous when you think about like all the dynamics that were out at play with the British versus the Americans and the Indians and all that kind of stuff.
The more popular cryptid that comes out of Point Pleasant is Mothman.
The Mothman.
So we have already talked about the Mothman, but this is actually before.
We briefly touched on him because we really only discussed a lot about the Mothman and his ties to Ohio.
In Hudson, that has
Nothing
on the
to do with
Ohio
the Ohio River. Yeah. Shut up, everybody.
So it was September 12th, 1952, a few years later.
Yep. Just a few.
Yeah. A
200.
group of boys were playing football in the fields of Flatwoods when they saw it. A fireball streaking across the sky. Bright, silent, and unnatural. One could be attributed as a shooting star or a piece of space rock crashing down like a meteorite.
Mm-hmm.
Meteorites when it hits the ground. They watched as it seemed to crash into a hillside near the homes of a local farmer. Curious, as most kids are.
If you're that age, you're going to go see what it is.
Right. And a little more frightened, the boys ran to get Mrs. Kathleen May, a trusted neighbor, which, smart.
Yeah,
Like-
sure. They got an adult, right?
Like everything in this story, like the initial story, makes logical sense.
Sure.
So they go and get Mrs. May. Together with a small group, they climbed the hill in search of whatever had fallen from the heavens. The air grew thick. A pungent metallic smell stung their noses, and they reached the clearing and they saw it. A figure nearly 10 feet tall, its body cloaked in something metallic, a spade-shaped head with glowing, piercing eyes, claw-like hands raised in a strange, deliberate motion. It emitted a low hiss, and the group was suddenly overwhelmed. Burning eyes, nausea, a feeling of sheer primal terror. Naturally, they ran.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they're not sticking around for this one.
Yeah. 10 foot tall enough is going to scare you.
Exactly.
All the rest of that added on top of it makes it pretty terrifying sounding.
And the one thing, and I think it gets into this, with the Mothman and the Flatwoods Monster, there's always that feeling of immense dread.
Right.
That happens with these. And
which is pretty common amongst a lot of cryptids.
Right.
Is one of the things that we're finding out as we kind of study more of these things and talk about them.
It's that feeling of despair, that hopelessness, things like that. So it's almost like it's emitting this fear, this emotion. They ran, stumbling down the hill, gasping for air, desperate to escape. What they had seen that night would make the national headlines within 24 hours. And this would mark Flatwoods forever. The very next day, local reporters naturally swarmed Flatwoods. The story quickly spread as the Braxton County Monster. National Wire Services picked it up, painting Flatwoods as the epicenter of a close encounter. And then you had some witnesses report that military vehicles on the hill that night and the following day, unmarked trucks, strange men in uniforms, gathering soil samples, removing debris. Officially, the Air Force listed this as a part of Project Blue Book. Do you know what Project Blue Book is?
No, I don't think so.
So Project Blue Book is...
That was the origination of Kelly Blue Book, where you find values for your car.
Close.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess you could say that because Project Blue Book is all of the UFO or UAP sightings, unexplained phenomena.
Oh, so it's the website where you find the value of your unidentified flying objects and stuff.
It's
cool.
like, it's Kelly Blue Book meets I was gonna say Auto Trader, but Craigslist.
Yeah. So you go on there and you're like, I'm looking for a silver saucer, approximately like 30 feet
exactly.
width, and it tells you, you should expect to pay somewhere in the ballpark of like,
moderate miles, 200 to 300 light years.
Yeah, right. That's great. So what was Project Blue Book?
So Project Blue Book was a project that documented all of the unexplained phenomena that would happen, that would get turned into the government, things like that.
Okay, so it really was, to a degree, the Craigslist of UFOs.
So there's if you have a chance to look at like Project Blue Book, it's a pretty cool and interesting thing. But surviving documents are thin and obviously deliberately.
Right.
So the thing with this, going back to the symptoms that they were experiencing.
Yeah, because some of those, like as you described it, like the burning eyes, right, was one of them. The choking, those kinds of things. Like as far as like heaviness of breathing, some of that, at least to me, immediately said like sulfur was kind of like part of the thing.
Right. And I'm going back up here in my notes because it kind of gave a comparison. The eye irritation that they were experiencing was very akin to what people would get with exposed radiation.
Oh, okay.
Or welding flash.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's that kind of irritation that they're experiencing. Like I said, extreme nausea, the fear of dread.
Okay.
And this is a very common occurrence with the Mothman and with the Flatwoods Monster.
Right.
It has that very same thing. And for the witnesses, for weeks, like I said, they complained of lingering illnesses, throat irritation, nausea, eye damage. Doctors dismiss it as hysteria. You know, we talked about, you know, the mass hysteria last week with Bigfoot.
Right.
But this was like lingering. And then, like I said, others suggested it was radiation exposure.
That's interesting. So they're saying like these people definitely have symptoms to a degree, but the doctors looking at them are saying we don't see any evidences of anything. Yeah. And so they think it's mass hysteria because the people they think they're just making up the symptoms because they're all in the same place at the same time type of deal.
Right.
But there seems to be some indication that this isn't just, they're not just making this up, right? Like it's not just a bunch of people got together and said, hey, let's fake some symptoms that we.
Because one of the people that went up that night was actually, I believe he was the sheriff of the town.
Okay.
So the cool thing about a lot of
he
these,
had the symptoms?
yes.
Okay.
I think it was mostly him and Miss K. Those were the ones that had the primary, because they got the closest. Which, you know, good on them, not like sending the kids. I mean, I would be like, hey, Billy, go.
You boys
go
go
check
along
that.
and explore that for a second, and we'll come up behind you.
Go play. We'll be fine. A lot of people will attribute this to extraterrestrial.
Sure. It sounds very extraterrestrial.
Very alien-esque. You know, the spade-shaped head, covered in metallic.
Yeah, 10 foot tall.
Yep.
Not a typical thing for humans these days.
The fireball that they saw was actually a malfunctioning spaceship. The creature was stranded far from home, basically like going checking out.
Yeah, something broke on a spaceship, probably burned up in the atmosphere on the way down type of thing and crashed.
A lot of the area, the next day when they went to go explore it in the daylight, it was trampled grass. There was that heavy metallic smell. They didn't find anything. They just found all of this destruction and evidence that was there. There was no physical ship. There was no physical.
So something happened, but someone removed all of the pertinent evidences that would have been there. Interesting. Doesn't sound like the government at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Skeptics argue that it was a far simpler explanation. It was a barn owl perched on a tree limb.
It was a barn owl.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because barn owls are usually metallic and give off a sense of dread.
Yep,
and,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Mothman was a sandhill crane.
Yeah, right.
The spade-shaped head, and I'm doing the Dr. Evil quotation marks, it's just wings spread in defense.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, owls do have a larger wingspan, but...
Yeah, but the thing I get hung up on is the metallic and the 10-foot tall thing. It's like, okay, so the owl's sitting on a branch. I get where you're going with that. But at the same time, the metallic, the kind of, in essence, sulfuric kind of presence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the glowing eyes, the glowing red eyes.
Yeah, owls have glowing eyes.
Yeah, right. That was that explanation, that it was just reflections.
Usually with an owl, because I saw a lot of them growing up in the woods, you see the flash of light, like if you catch it just right in their eyes, but not
it's
usually
not a lingering.
Not usually where you would go, oh, it was glowing. You would just say like, no, I saw like a little bit of reflection.
Yeah. And the hiss and the odor, just natural gases and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had a little too much Taco Bell that night.
Gassy. Yeah. I love it.
Obviously, the witnesses disagreed, and it's one of those things where eyewitnesses are incredibly unreliable.
Yeah.
Even if they did see something, they talk about it in airplane disasters and things like that.
Right.
People have seen it from the ground. You ask 10 people who are standing in a row what happened, and you're going to get 10 similar but very distinct.
Right. Each person has unique details that they paid attention to, unique perspective on it. Because even like you said, if 10 people are standing in a row, it's amazing how much your perspective can change just within a matter of feet, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I get that.
Like you can see something that happened. Somebody will see something happen at the front of the line, and that you're not going to see at the end of the line.
Yep.
And you'll see something at the end of the line that you won't see at the front of
Right.
the line. Miss May described the figure in detail, even drawing sketches that matched other reports of quote-unquote spacemen seen in the 1950s UFO wave. Could all of them been mistaken? Obviously, again, unreliable narrators, unreliable witnesses. Everybody's going to have a little bit things, but they were all very similar. Other whispers, naturally government cover-ups, radiation, chemical tests, Cold War experimentation, hidden in plain sight. I know we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Hiding in plain sight is the best thing to do.
Right.
It's one of those things where which I kind of subscribe to this conspiracy theory that the U.S. government perpetuated UFO sightings to hide their stealth aircraft.
Yeah, like all the stuff that they were working on in Area 51 that's really just human technology stuff they're developing, but they're going to pretend like,
we don't know what
it's
it
all
is.
UFO craft
Yeah.
and stuff like that, because how else do you how else do you cover up like we talked about before, right? So when you're developing a Harrier jet that's capable of hovering and the world's never seen an airplane that could do that before, how do you cover that up? Well, you make the plane look a little different than what it looks nowadays.
Right.
It looks a little more saucer-esque, and when it goes out to test and people go, I saw the spaceship stop in midair and just hover there, you go, aliens, that's the only...
It rose up to a stop and then just sat there and hovered. It's like, that's a Harrier
It's
jet.
a Harrier jet, yeah.
Like, it is 100% a Harrier jet.
We have that technology and stuff, but back then, when
they
people
didn't
didn't know about
we
it,
had
right,
that technology.
you could play it off in a sense.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, yes, I agree that government cover-ups happen more often than we want to.
Oh,
admit.
yeah. Yeah.
And the unmarked vehicles, they were there to investigate, quote unquote, or just erase what happened.
Yeah.
It could have been, an experimental aircraft that crashed, a smaller experimental aircraft that crashed. There's a bunch of different theories behind that. So the Flatwood Monster has never been fully explained, and maybe that's the point.
Yep.
Flatwoods was not alone. Just over a decade later, 60 miles away, Point Pleasant, the very place of Chief Cornstalk's death, would become home to another legend, the Mothman. In the Haunted Cosmos episode about this, it's one of those things where there's a few other different experiences where these two people were out and they had stopped on the side of the road. They looked down, they saw glowing eye or a glowing orb that was down there, and it was sitting there. The guy got out of his car, and then all of a sudden it moved up. He was walking back to the car. It was behind him, and he was paralyzed in fear and that overwhelming sense of dread. And then he was able to run into his car. And so they were posed the thing that was this like an experimentation of how people would react to coming, if it was extraterrestrials, like this was a ground, like a test run, things like that.
Trying to see what are people going to do if aliens show up, if there's something along these lines.
So, sightings of a winged red-eyed creature, again, the two things, unmarked cars, mysterious phone calls, and something that we will touch on the next time I do a cryptid, along with Mothman. This brought about the introduction of the Men in Black.
Here come the Men in Black. Yep. Yeah, that's the Men in Black are a very interesting thing that surround a lot of the cryptid sightings,
especially in this era.
Yep, especially in those like 50s to the 70s. There's a big presence of these guys, and even into today, there's still stories that swirl about the Men in Black showing up in different ways. And this is not the Men in Black in the same sense that we think of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones wearing a black suit that's really spiffy looking and stuff. These guys are much more cryptid and nefarious in their dealings with people,
right?
And stuff.
And you know, we joke about like the Edgar suit, but it's kind of that where it's like they are not humans, but they are trying to act human.
Right.
It's like, hello, humans. I like doing human things.
Hello, fellow humans. Would you like to get a cheeseburger together? Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I need to breathe now. Like very unnatural things where it's like they'll be like just talking like
I'm going to walk 5 minutes forwards now.
The thing about the Men in Black, and we'll get into it later, but like they are basically carbon copies of one another. Like they look so similar, more than just like twins.
Yeah.
Like it's very eerie.
Hello, brother. Do you like the sports ball? I also like the sports ball.
This is
Human
my name
stuff.
is Daryl. This is my brother Daryl, and my other brother Daryl.
And that's his brother, Daryl. Yeah.
So with both of these, you have shared symptoms. Witnesses fell ill.
Mm-hmm.
Animals avoided the area.
Sense of dread.
And sense of dread, and the fear spread like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
Some say West Virginia is a quote-unquote window area, a place where the veil between our world and something else is thin. A thin place is another way to describe that. So, and this is in the same area. So where the Flatwoods Monster takes place is the next county over from Point Pleasant.
Point Pleasant, yeah.
So it would be like something happening in Rittman and Wadsworth. I mean, it's a little closer in that example than the actual. I mean, 60 miles is, it's a pretty decent clip. So like one end of the county to the other end of the county.
Man,
so
it's almost to Cleveland from here in that sense, but at the
so,
same time, still not that far away.
Relative proximity of the area, it's pretty close.
Especially when you take into consideration, like, so you got Chief Cornstalk places this curse on the land,
right,
because of what these guys did, and so you know it's not like when you curse a land that he's like, okay, well, whatever borders the town of Point Pleasant draws out eventually, that's where the curse stays. Yeah. It's like he's cursing all the land in that area in a sense, saying like, for you guys, the white men who killed me, for all the generations of your family and stuff like that, I'm cursing this land is what this guy's trying to do. And you know, something they touched on in Haunted Cosmos and stuff like that, and that we've talked about and probably will continue to talk about, is when someone does something like that, like the chief was trying to lean into what he saw as like the dark side of nature to place that curse. In a sense, those of us who trust in Christ and know things from a spiritual perspective in that sense would look at that and go, he was in essence inviting demonic forces to now take hold on that land, which is part of the reason why we, you know, like you and I have talked about this in light of listening to the Haunted Cosmos, but we've talked about the fact that, like, yeah, when you look at the Mothman, when you look at the Flatwoods Monster, when we look at so many of these different cryptids that seem to have this sense of dread, this evil kind of presence to them, and they're doing nefarious things, like the Mothman, when he shows up and there's the instance of the people who are trying to get away from the Mothman and he's chasing them, and there's like scratches across the hood of their car and the top of it and stuff. There's all kinds of things that show that the Mothman was not there to bring good news, right?
No, and it's been called, you know, the harbinger of doom, and things like that. And it's one of those things where, putting it in that perspective, it makes a lot of sense if you're looking at it biblically and spiritually, that these are physical entities that can just manifest into different forms or whatever. Yeah,
because we were having some discussions about that, like in our household recently, mainly between Brooke and I. But we were talking about that idea of demons and the way that they can present themselves in a sense, right? Like sometimes I believe it is psychological, that if a person allows demons to get into their head, I know you've already listened to it, but the Ouija board episode from Haunted Cosmos really taps into that, right? That if you let demonic forces, if you let them get into your head and like really take root and stuff, that they can begin to present things and like show you stuff from your mental capacity that maybe isn't really there, that they can also interact with nature. I mean, we see that in the story of Jesus casting Legion out of the man that's in the like this, that's roaming around the cemetery like a wild dog in a sense. And the demons like request of Jesus. They're like, listen, we know you're going to cast us out of this guy.
Yeah.
Which is always a funny thing. Like demons are always just kind of like, oh, bro, is it time already? Like that's kind of the feeling of it in a sense. They know that who he is.
Like it's not comical, but it's comical in a sense. And then you think of like, what is it, Balaam's donkey?
Yeah.
Like it's like, you're stupid, dude. Like this is
like pay attention. There's an angel right there. But it's but you know, like when they make a request of Jesus in that instance, and they say, if you're going to cast us out, cast us into those pigs over there. And so Jesus, when he casts them out, they go and they take over the pigs, however that happens and stuff, and they run the pigs off the cliff into the water and stuff, and they die. And so if we see that example of, okay, there's the demons were controlling a man. Right. They then go into pigs and are able to control the pigs. Right. What does that say about what demons are capable of in the physical world, right? Like there's demonic influence in things around us, and it can manifest itself in a very physical way. Mm-hmm. And so as we're seeing these things, like, to think about the implications of that. Like the Mothman was very likely a demon controlling something. Right. And terrorizing people.
Or manifesting itself into an appearance and things like that. And
the Flatwoods Monster could be something along those lines. Like that's,
Right.
The Men in Black could be.
It's one of those things where it's the more you dig into it and kind of, I'm not going to say suspend your beliefs and everything, but if you kind of look at it as an outside perspective, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Even like
if you rationale it out,
even taking out like the spiritual sense of it and looking at it as an explanation. Okay, so this happened, and there's good, there's evil. You know, it's a cool thing to dive into. Like I said, check it out whether you're a believer or not. Like listen to the Haunted Cosmos. It provides a lot of explanation.
Yeah, I totally agree. No matter where you're at on the faith side of things, you should listen to it and just try to consider this from a perspective maybe outside of something that you've thought about before. Right. Because that's always a good thing to just
it's always nice to get a brand new perspective on things and think of things in a different way.
Absolutely. Nearly 2 centuries
before the fireball streaked across the Flatwoods, Chief Cornstalk whispered in his dying curse that this land would be haunted by tragedy, by mystery, and things beyond comprehension. Some call it superstition, others say he was right. And perhaps the people of Flatwoods on that September night weren't cursed at all. Perhaps they were chosen to glimpse something beyond the veil, something that reminds us how little we really know. And that is the story of the Flatwoods Monster.
That's interesting. And that kind of goes back to, I think that you asked me about it on here, or somebody did. I know we discussed it at one point in time about the butterfly effect, because somebody like posed a question about like, do we believe in the butterfly effect or whatever? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I full blown believe in it, because I believe that every little action that we take in life is all that has effects on things.
For sure.
But you think about Chief Cornstalk at least saying that curse or whatever over the land and stuff, and then the implications that holds, like no matter where you are on the faith aspect of it or what you believe, whether it's demons or aliens or whatever, no matter where you find yourself on that, it's just fascinating to think through the like Chief Cornstalk makes that curse in 1777, and then 200 years later we see these things coming about, and I'm sure they're probably not the only ones, right? Like there's probably stories from way back when that we don't know about.
And it's one of those things too where his death was part of a historical record. Like this wasn't just a myth or a folk tale.
Right.
And it's one of those things where a lot of times people saying curses and things like that wouldn't be fully made up. You would have like obviously some embellishing of the details, things like that, but to have this included in some way, shape, or form, he had to have said something.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those things where, and like Haunted Cosmos goes into it a lot too, where the curses or the spirits that they believed in did have supernatural powers and things like that, because this was an unreached land. So this is what they knew. This is what they believed in.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a whole different thing that we could go into, but it's not worth going into because there is a better avenue. Like I said, I mean, we'll pull things from them because, like I said, I kind of want to go back into and like revisit Mothman and then revisit the Men in Black over the next few different cryptids. But yeah, so this is the Flatwoods Monster. I mean, I think it gets overshadowed by the Mothman. But it's a cool story because it's almost one of those things where it bides into, or it digs into the curse of Cornstalk. Yeah. Even before everything with the Mothman happens.
Mm-hmm. And really funny tie-in that we've got going on right now wasn't today the Mothman Festival?
Yeah,
it was down in Point Pleasant. So we're recording on Saturday, September the 20th, and today is the day that the Mothman Festival is going on. So it's kind of fitting that we're talking about Flatwoods Monster, Mothman, all the stuff that surrounds both of those, Chief Cornstalk, all that. So yeah, that's a cool tie-in. As we kind of jump out of the cryptid thing and stuff, give us your feedback on that. Like, what are your thoughts on the Flatwoods Monster, Mothman? Like, what do you think are some explanations for these things? You know, what do you think maybe if you're a person of faith or if you're not a person of faith, from your perspective, how do you feel about the idea of the demonic influences and those types of things? Give us some feedback on that. We'd love to hear your opinions, your thoughts on those types of things and how that ties in for you. And as we get ready to transition, I told you, I kind of teased this in the last episode, and I told you that I have an update on a story that we dealt with previously. And it's actually, I think it was your story that you told. And so I think you're going to be surprised by this.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
1986. Uh-huh. Do you remember what happened that year?
I mean, I was born, but aside from that.
Aside from that, there was
the Challenger. No, wait, that was...
Wasn't Challenger. Specifically dealing in Cleveland.
Oh, the Balloon Fest?
Balloon Fest, 1986.
Yeah.
This morning, I was listening to Things I Learned Last Night, another favorite podcast of ours.
And they credited our podcast for bringing that to their attention.
No.
Dang.
I wish they would have. That would have been super cool. I think we probably would have gotten a bump in listeners if that had happened at that point in time. But they did not do that, but they did bring back up the Balloon Fest.
Okay.
So Tim, who is half of the Tillin podcast, he laid out the whole Balloon Fest story.
Right.
Talked all about it. And there was a twist that we didn't have in our episode. As a matter of fact, it's a twist that I don't think that anybody really knows about.
Really?
And I wanted to kind of bring it up because it's a correction for us to a degree that we need to make to clarify things. And it's something that you and I both did research on Balloon Fest. Like, you did yours like big time to get ready for it. I did some reading and I watched the documentary and stuff like that afterwards. Here's the big twist.
What did I get wrong?
That Tim threw in. You didn't get anything wrong. Everything that you said, according to what you could find, is correct.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. No, you're good. The crazy twist is that all of those negative things that we talked about with Balloon Fest are lies.
Really?
Yeah. So Tim went down this crazy rabbit trail, and come to find out with Balloon Fest, the thing that ended up happening was that there was an article that was written right after Balloon Fest,
right,
where people that were there that day were interviewed, and when the guy that was writing the article, who was with a newspaper that's in Cleveland, it was a Cleveland newspaper. And you remember the whole point of Balloon Fest, right, was that United Way joined in together with this guy who had just broken the world record at Disneyland,
right,
by setting off 1 million balloons at one time. They're like, we want to go for 2 million. So it didn't quite make it the 2 million, but it was over 1 million. So they still set the record and stuff. So the whole idea, though, was that we're trying to bring some recognition back to Cleveland, bring Cleveland back alive.
The donations for the United Way, it was two balloons for $1 or whatever, that.
Like this big combination thing, right? United Way is going to make money. Cleveland is going to get some recognition and become a bigger deal.
We're not going to be the mistake on the lake.
Yeah, that was the goal,
right?
So when the thing's over with, these interviews are done. The people present things exactly the way that they happened in downtown Cleveland that day. And then the guy that wrote the article embellished everything
What?
and turned it into what we all know as Balloon Fest, the giant mistake.
Really?
The reality of it is like, let's just comb through some things, right?
Right.
The reality of it is like, number one, they said there was tons of car accidents that were supposed to have happened that day, right? That like,
well, there was like one.
so like the stories, like if you go on to like, Tim said that even like the Wikipedia page and stuff for Balloon Fest is all wrong. Because if you go on there, it reports and says there were multiple car accidents because of people unable to see because of the balloons falling in downtown Cleveland, all this kind of stuff. The reality is that there was one 10-car pileup on the freeway that day because one person got distracted by all the balloons going up. They crashed their car, and then other cars hit them from behind, and that was what caused the pileup, right? But that was the only accident that happened that day. But there's a lot more to it, right? The two fishermen, remember that part of the story?
Yes, that were lost.
Two fishermen got lost. And supposedly they're saying like, we couldn't find the fishermen because of the balloon thing. The reality of that story is that the two fishermen, their bodies had been found the night before. That was actually like all solved and done and over with before the balloon thing happened. But when the guy found out about the two fishermen thing, he made up this whole embellishment about that, saying that while they were out trying to search for the fishermen, that the balloons on the water and stuff like that, they couldn't tell what would be a human head bobbing above the water versus the balloons on the water and stuff.
Right.
The reality is that they weren't even out like trying to search that day because everything had already been taken care of. They said that after they released the balloons, that they closed down all the airspace over Cleveland. The reality is the airspace had been closed ahead of time because of the release of the balloons. That was all taken care of before they ever got to the point of releasing them. There's just like a bunch of different things that are, the big one, right? So the families of the fishermen were supposed to have sued United Way. So they were supposed to have sued United Way for like millions of dollars, right?
Right.
The reality was that they actually settled out in court, and the United Way had purchased insurance for that entire event, and they settled out of court for like $5,000 per family for the families of those fishermen. And it never went to trial. There was no like millions of dollars paid out by the United Way to them. The United Way like purchased an insurance policy. That insurance policy paid out, I think, to those people and to the people that were involved in like the accident or something like that, the car accident, that there was several $1,000s paid out, but that was it. There was no like millions of dollars worth of losses.
Wow.
The reality of it is that this whole picture of Balloon Fest that was painted in the documentary, on the Wikipedia page, in all these different articles that people wrote over time about it and stuff like that, all of that stems from this article of misinformation, which the newspaper removed. They retracted it, but obviously it was too late by the time that they took it down for them to recover all of the misinformation that had been put out there and stuff. And so this whole idea of like Balloon Fest and it being this just massive problematic mistake was all a farce.
So like even the documentary and stuff
is all because they're
predicated on that,
because
report?
they made the documentary based on all of this misinformation that's been floating out there for the past 40 years,
Dang.
on Balloon Fest and stuff. And so yeah, that like Tim was at least, and okay, I'm going to go back and say this is coming from one source on Tillin, but Tim's pretty good at doing his research, and so I'm just saying, like, I kind of trust his word in that respect. They're pretty good about doing like what we do. If they need to, they go back and do retractions and corrections on the stuff that they talk about. And so I think that Tim wouldn't have brought this up if that hadn't been the case. But yeah, it seems like from everything that he could gather that there's just a ton of lies swirling around Balloon Fest 86. making it seem like this really bad thing. But in reality, United Way and the city of Cleveland both said it was a great day all the way up until this article ruined it for everybody.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, I'm like trying to find my notes from that, and I can't find them in my Word docs. I can't find them in my ChatGPT. I can't find them in my Gemini.
Yeah, but they United Way actually made a pretty good chunk of change off of the sales of the balloons and off of the event and stuff. Cleveland was excited about it. As a matter of fact, Tim said that every person that was interviewed that was there in Cleveland that day that witnessed the whole thing go down and stuff, everything was positive. They were like, this was amazing. They actually got the Guinness World Record. They were in the book for it and all that kind of stuff. And so everything went off exactly the way that it should have. But then this guy wrote this article and it flipped the narrative, and it's been negative ever since concerning Balloon Fest 86.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's like the wildest thing. When we were listening to it this morning, I was just like, there's no way. And sure enough, from at least my little bit of research, and then from listening to Tim talk about it this morning, that's the truth of the matter, is that Balloon Fest 86 was actually a big success that got overshadowed by one newspaper article that painted it to be a massive failure.
Yeah, that was, wow. Yeah, disrupted traffic, causing numerous car accidents in the surrounding area. The local airport was forced to shut down for a half hour. Right. Impacted the search of the 2 missing fishermen.
Yeah. All
lawsuits.
All of that stuff was mitigated before it ever happened. So all the airspace was shut down over Cleveland before they released the balloons. It was I forget how many hours it was, but they had it scheduled out. They knew that everything was going to be shut down during that time period. The fisherman thing had already been wrapped up. The car accident was a 10-car pileup only because one person got distracted from looking at all the balloons. We saw that picture, the mushroom cloud of balloons that were going up over Cleveland.
Right.
They saw that, and somebody got distracted, as you probably would, and they wrecked their car, and a bunch of other cars that were going really fast on the freeway smacked into them. And so it caused a 10-car pileup. That was it. That was the whole accident. And yeah, so that the person that had the car accident, they got distracted, and then the families of the 2 fishermen tried to sue United Way because of the balloon stuff, but because of the insurance policy they had, they ended up settling out of court for a few $1,000s each.
Well, and because and not the millions of dollars that
it was supposed to have been $1.2 million, something like that the families received, and it wasn't true at all.
Wow.
Tim was like, he's like, there's documentation about those kinds of court cases and stuff, and he's like, and there's just nothing there. It didn't happen. So, anyways, I just thought I'd give us a real quick recap on that one since I heard it this morning.
Crazy.
It's wild. Yeah. So, anyways, we don't want to be misinformants.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. I mean, it's one of those things where do your research, I guess, because I would have never thought.
But Tim said this. He said in their thing, he's like, if anybody out there goes and researches Balloon Fest 86, he said, you're going to see that it was a massive failure. And he's like, and the likelihood that you're ever going to find this information about this article and the fact that it was what set up all this failure stuff, he's like, you're probably not going to see it at all. He's like, it's buried and it's gone. And he said, and it was only through him finding one piece of information that led him down a rabbit trail and doing all the research to get to that point was the only way that he found out. He said, anybody else, he's like, that's the reason why there was so he's like, all these, he's like a bunch, he threw us in that lump, but all the podcasts, all the, news stories, all of the documentary, he's like, all of that stuff is all based off of misinformation, but he's like, it's next to impossible to find the truth hidden amongst all the bad PR.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Pretty nutty.
Huh.
So I thought it was interesting. I just thought I'd bring it up so we could kind of do in essence, we're doing a little bit of a correction on our part, but I'm also saying that none of this is our fault because
it's using the information that was given
that's what's out there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They really did release 1 million and whatever change balloons over Cleveland. The weather did affect it. There was some droppage of the balloons because of the change in barometric pressure and all that kind of stuff. Most of the stuff as far as what actually happened with the balloons and the craziness of trying to get them all filled and in that net and stuff.
Was
all of that stuff was reality. But the negative things that happened afterwards,
the negative fallout
was
not
all
nearly
lies.
as bad as...
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
So, anyways, as we wrap up today, we're going to do what we normally do and remind you guys of just a few things.
Right. Check out our link tree. It's always linked in our show description and on our social medias. Basically, that allows you a way to share our podcast with everybody, no matter what platform they listen to or watch on. I guess, there's a static image on YouTube. I mean, technically you're watching, but it's one of those things
if you
where...
want to sit and stare at our really cool logo, you can do that.
Just go ahead and share that. It gives you the opportunity to share it on Facebook and text messages and all that kind of thing. Like I said, it points everybody to one social media site. We also have stickers with QR codes on them that takes you right to that link set.
We would appreciate you guys checking that out and sharing it out with your friends. Again, our goal in this is never to become famous or to have like the biggest podcast in the world.
Right.
Our goal in this is to dive deeper into our ADHD brains and share as much stuff from that as we can, have some fun, laugh along the way.
Yep.
Maybe even every once in a while, like today, throw in a little bit of spiritual talk with you, just kind of get you thinking about certain things. But we want to just produce this in order for you guys to have something that is lighthearted, has a little bit of fun, gives you a little bit of like crazy information stuff at the beginning of your week each week, and hopefully brightens up your day. And so we hope you guys will share it out. Hope you'll let your friends know if you enjoy listening to this podcast. And otherwise, we will look forward to seeing you guys in episode 41, which is absolutely mind-boggling.
Right.
We keep ticking them off, and it keeps getting more and more surprising every time.
Right, exactly. And like we haven't really figured out like a structure for like seasons and things like that. We're kind of just letting them roll.
So my suggestion is, since we started at the beginning of this year,
yeah,
I think the season 2 will start in January of next year.
Yep.
I was going to make a suggestion that maybe we take a little bit of a break during the holidays.
Yeah.
And so we might pull that off.
And like I said, this is why this is an abnormal recording for us because, of missing a week. But, we try to keep these that way in case something happens, we have the episodes for you guys. So,
that's right. Got it banked up. All right. We love you guys very much. Hope you have a great week this week. And we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
I hate when my AI doesn't act properly. Get yourself together. Chat.
Do better.